Good afternoon. Good evening, Dr. Choue.
Good afternoon to you from Seoul, yes.
Great to have you with us this afternoon. And first of all, welcome to all of you online who've been able to join us for another edition of SportWorks Talks. It's afternoon here in Lausanne, the Olympic capital, but very kindly, Dr. Choue, President of World Taekwondo and Chairman of the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation, has joining us this evening from Seoul. So it's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure. And as with all our talks, we will start by having, we'll do a little introductory video, and then Dr. Choue will be doing a presentation explaining to us a little bit about his journey and sharing the importance of why peace is more precious than triumph. So very much, and I'm certain you will enjoy this presentation today. So as always, we will start with the presentation, we'll do the talk, and then we'll be opened up to Q&A.
Yes.
So, as always, if you pop your questions into the chat, we'll do our best to answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So hello, everybody from around the world. Let us know where you're joining from. Please pop that in the chat. It's always nice to see where people are joining from around the world, and really grateful to have you all with us. So for now, I'm just going to launch a quick introductory video for us.
Next in today's program, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Choue, President of the World Taekwondo Federation.
It may seem paradoxical that an art of combat can be a way of peace, but it is. Taekwondo is connecting people. It exemplifies Olympic values and global values.
For the first time in a decade, a North Korean Taekwondo team is visiting the South to build a bridge to greater inter-Korean exchanges.
We'll do our best to make our sports different. It was always confident that the sports can contribute to world peace. In 2008, we dispatched Taekwondo Peace Corps teams to many needy countries. 2015, we create Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation. We are supporting refugee children. Taekwondo is the first Olympic sport to accept the refugee athletes can participate in last Rio Olympic Games. We support many refugee camps in the world. Together with the educational program, of course, we are not just teaching Taekwondo, we are also teaching them the importance of world peace and the importance of Olympism, and moreover, how to live as a good global citizen. There is two different Taekwondo federations, World Taekwondo, and another one is North Korean initiated International Taekwondo Federation. So we made a protocol of accord. I, as president, was witness to signing those protocol of accord. One Taekwondo, one world. So we invite them to participate the opening ceremony to show their demonstration to the world. Well, someday in the near future, they will invite us to go there and to demonstrate our style of demonstration to the other part of the world. Peace is more precious than triumph. So during the peaceful period, we can support through the Olympic sports how to behave and how to live as a good citizen. Thank you. I now give you Taekwondo.
Great. Now we're going to start. So thank you very much for that great introduction. Fantastic video to give us a great context. So now over to you, Dr. Choue.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the good chance to talk about peace is more precious than triumph. Once again, good evening from Seoul, Korea. I'm Chungwon Choue, President of World Taekwondo and Chairman of the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation. Before I begin this webinar, I hope that everyone who is watching this and your loved ones are doing well. The global COVID-19 pandemic is one of the biggest challenges to humanity in modern history. We must stay safe and stay positive during these challenging times. Today, it is my pleasure to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart. I would like to thank SportWorksTALKS for this webinar on peace is more precious than triumph. Peace is more precious than triumph is a motto, a way of living that was passed down from my late father to me. From one generation to another, and hopefully for many generations to come. In order to better understand this motto and its importance in today's society, we first need to know a bit about my father, Dr. Choue. My father was, in a sense, a refugee himself. He was born in what is now North Korea. He was an educator, a philanthropist, and a peace-loving man. Back when Korea was recovering from the devastating Second World War and Korean War in the 1950s and 60s, he prioritized education and peace as his main pillars to build a civilized world. He envisioned Korea to be a global leader in these areas. For this reason, I created Kyunghee University system to promote education. The Kyunghee University system provided a holistic pathway to education, from preschool to middle school, all the way to college. In 1975, my father launched the Goodwill Cooperation Service, or GCS in short. GCS focused on the development of individual ethical standards that collectively can contribute to a civilized world. It is from such humble beginnings and vision that my father ultimately created the global peace movement in 1981. He was also an instrumental contributor to reunion visits between families divided in North and South Korea. And it was through this global peace movement that my father left behind the legacy that is still relevant to this day. In 1981, South Korea was still not a member of the United Nations. At that time, my father was also the president of the International Association of University Presidents, or IAUP. During an IAUP meeting in Costa Rica in July 1981, my father proposed the founding of an International Day of Peace. My father believed that war and conflicts are part of humanity. But on this day, there should only be peace and respect for humankind. Costa Rica submitted the proposal on behalf of the IAUP to the 36th United Nations General Assembly to recognize September 21st as the International Day of Peace. That same year in 1981, the UN accepted the proposal, and that was the beginning of the UN International Day of Peace on every September 21st. So next Monday will be the 39th anniversary of the UN International Day of Peace. Next year, in 2021, we hope to commemorate the 40th anniversary of this special day with the Sport and Peace Forum in Wuxi, China. Coincidentally, it would be my late father's centenary as well next year. An apple does not fall far away from the tree. It is from the vision and teaching of my father that I dedicated my life to the realization of peace. In my case, it is through the sports of Taekwondo. I became president of World Taekwondo in 2004. In the early years of my presidency, I focused on the governance reform of World Taekwondo and survival of Taekwondo as an Olympic sport. After Beijing 2008 Olympic Games, and with World Taekwondo in a more stable situation, I started to think about my father's legacy. What could I do to promote peace and create a civilized world? In 2008, I launched the Taekwondo Peace Corps under the theme of World Peace through the Great Taekwondo Spirit. It was the first global peace movement through Taekwondo. We sent young coaches and volunteers around the world to help youth in developing countries and in communities that needed help. It was also a movement to promote cross-cultural respect. The Taekwondo Peace Corps is now a foundation that is still going strong. Over the past 10 years, more than 2,000 volunteers have touched the lives of thousands of youth around the world. Last year, about 200 volunteers were sent to 38 countries before the pandemic started. The Taekwondo Peace Corps was just the beginning of the journey. Shortly after the World Taekwondo Championships in Chelyabinsk, Russia, in May 2015, I was traveling to London. While I was on the plane, I kept thinking how Taekwondo could do more as an Olympic sport and as a medium for peace. What could he do to contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals? I remembered watching the news about the European migrant crisis 2 months before, when more than 1 million migrants and refugees crossed dangerous borders and seas into Europe. I was personally shocked and saddened by their plight. I thought about the legacy of my father. The next part is a true story. When I was in London, I came across one of the famous London cabs. One of them had this car plate with the characters THF. So I thought about and came up with the name Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation. That was the birth of Taekwondo's second global peace movement. So I worked on this idea after I returned to Korea. Within a few months, on September 21st, in 2015, 34 years after the UN accepted my father's proposal and established the International Day of Peace, I announced at the United Nations headquarters in New York that I was going to launch the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation. At that time, I felt like the torch of peace was truly passed from my father, Dr. Yang Cho, to me. I felt a very heavy sense of responsibility. So now, World Taekwondo has 210 member national associations, and plus one. Plus one is our refugee community. The Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation was established under Swiss law in April 2016. Our first and flagship project was to construct a humanitarian Taekwondo center in Azraq, Jordan. Thanks to our generous donors, the humanitarian Taekwondo center in Azraq camp was finally completed in March 2018. The center even has a field in the middle of the desert for the children to learn and grow. In Azraq camp, we covered the course of the coach who trained refugee children for 4 times a week. We also implemented education programs to teach the refugee children about the values of Olympism and world peace. I'm very proud to share with you that as of today, we have 15 children who are now black belt holders. One of them is now even on the Olympic scholarship training for the Tokyo Olympic Games next year. Can you imagine that? These children had no place to call their home, and some of them witnessed war and tragedy. They had lost hope and dreams, but through Taekwondo, they found a way to be inspired again. We also launched or will launch humanitarian activities in Niger, Turkey, Rwanda, Colombia, and Djibouti, just to name a few countries. I'm also proud to share this story. The IOC was inspired by the mission of the THF, and they decided to create the Olympic Refugee Foundation. I'm very proud to serve as a member of the ORF and sharing my THF experiences with the ORF board. 2 years after the creation of the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation, I was invited to speak at the SportWorks convention in Bangkok in April 2018. I called for the other international sports federations to join us in the humanitarian activities and developing joint education programs. Achieving peace is not just for World Taekwondo, but it is a responsibility of every international sports federation in the Olympic and Paralympic family. To date, we have signed memorandums of understanding with 9 Olympic and non-Olympic sports, like wrestling, table tennis, badminton, judo, hockey, baseball and softball, Muay Thai, Sambo, and powerboating. We are in discussions with other sports and organizations to expand our collaboration. The Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation was invited to present at the first Paris Peace Forum in November 2018. We were one of only 2 sports to be invited to present in front of the 65 heads of the state and more than 10,000 visitors. The third global peace movement of World Taekwondo is our Taekwondo Cares Sport for Development program. Taekwondo Cares is focused on grassroots development and support aid for our 210 member national associations. We focus on integrating juvenile youth and reformatory inmates back into society. Just in the past 2 years alone, the Taekwondo Cares program has helped our member national associations through more than $3.5 million worth of financial and equipment support. And it is through these global peace movements that World Taekwondo recently launched a successful crowdfunding campaign for the children of Lebanon who suffered from the devastating blast in Beirut. Within a couple of weeks, we managed to raise $10,000 to help pay for their tuition and Taekwondo fees. We also collaborated with the Asian Development Foundation to donate $30,000 to recovery efforts in Beirut. Another aspect of our global peace movement is the engagement with North Korea. Through the North Korean-led International Taekwondo Federation, we have organized joint demonstration team performances over the past few years, especially at the Pyeongchang 2018 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games and a European tour, including at the United Nations office in Geneva and IOC. We hope that such efforts will help the respective governments come together for a peaceful resolution in the Korean Peninsula and in East Asia. So far, I have highlighted Taekwondo's influence in the global peace movements. World Taekwondo is also actively contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals, especially in SDG 3 on good health and well-being, and SDG 5 on gender equality, SDG 8 on decent work and economic growth, and SDG 10 on reducing inequalities, SDG 11 on sustainable cities and communities, SDG 13 on climate action, and SDG 17 on partnership for goals. For instance, Taekwondo was the first combat sports in the Olympic Games to allow the wearing the hijab under our headgear in 2008 Beijing Olympic Games. At the Rio and 2016 Olympic Games, Taekwondo was the only sport to send the equal number of male and female international referees. The last year, World Taekwondo was one of the first international sports federations to sign a UN Sport for Climate Action framework, and we were recognized by the International Olympic Committee for taking concrete action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our World Championships. Finally, I wish to touch a bit on the growing social unrest in and outside the world of sport. Sport has a powerful role to play in addressing such social issues. Through Taekwondo, we promote values such as inclusiveness, respect, tolerance, courtesy, and integrity. On the mat, we are competitors, but we play fair. Off the mat, we are friends. This is what peace is more precious than triumph is about. This is the legacy that my father lived by in his life, and which I'm living by to do to this today. This is the maxim that World Taekwondo and the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation are founded on. Once again, thank you to SportWorksTALKS. Please continue to stay safe and positive. I believe that we will emerge stronger together. Finally, I wish to end my speech with another motto: peace in mind, sports at heart. Thank you.
Repeating to say was fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for sharing. And as always, incredibly inspiring to learn about what the international federations are doing and the contribution that you're making. I think it's so important to our sport community to better understand and learn from each other.
Thank you.
The efforts that you're making, and I'm really moved and want to say thank you very much for not just the presentation, but the work that you're doing and the legacy that you're following with the work that your father set. So incredibly inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
So going to now a couple of questions that came in earlier, and this was one was my first question was you've chosen a lion as the symbol for the THF, so the Humanitarian Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation. What was the origins behind that?
For me? Oh, so it's not the simple lion, smiling lion.
Okay.
So when you need the power to support somebody else, otherwise you cannot help. But it's not aggressive just with the power, smiling lion. So I choose smiling lion as a symbol of Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation.
It's a great one. The next question was looking ahead. Obviously, you've set some amazing goals and achieved some amazing achievements from the foundation of World Peace Day with your father back in 1981. When you look ahead to the future, what are the goals? Obviously, you've got some great aspirations.
No, there is. I think I believe that there is no end line, only starting line. So World Taekwondo will support the way of peace-loving sports, and also the important thing is we should do something. So I'm always thinking, as an Olympic International Sports Federation, there should be the contribution to our human society, not only sports, but in different way. So there are so many refugee kids. As you know, according to UNHCR statistic, there are 64 million refugees around the world. So we are just starting at the Azra camp in Jordan, but we already have a Turkey, the Syrian refugee camp, and also Niger, Rwanda, we are supporting. So from this moment, we like to support more in African region and Pan Am region.
Fabulous. It's a great point. There's always the starting line. Thank you. A question that I came up with was something you mentioned at the very beginning of your presentation at the United Nations. And
Yes.
that was when looking at a combat sport and a fighting sport and how it relates to peace. And I'm always interested to learn, and I understand it's very bound to the tradition of Taekwondo, but I'd be interested to know, and I'm sure our viewers are interested to know how that relates.
Yes, I think many people think Taekwondo is a combat sports, martial arts sports, fighting sports, but beyond that, we need the self-discipline and also the respect elderly people, respect society, and support the weak, the friends. So this is a self-defense, not attacking martial arts. So first you have to learn by yourself the self-discipline, and then respect others, and discipline is more important. So that's why Taekwondo is always doing something to support needy persons. And also we support, for instance, orphans in many countries, and also to support the juvenile reformatory to teach Taekwondo, and also with educational program to teach them importance of world peace and Olympism, and also moreover, how to live as a good global citizen. This is what we are trying to support.
And it's wonderful. I think it's key in, as you say, in being a global citizen, a really important piece. So there's a comment just come in the chat. Thanks, Guy. The next 2 Olympic Games, or next 3, including the Winter Games, will be hosted in East Asia. Do you see this as a great multi-year opportunity for engagement with the DRP, the Democratic Republic of Korea? And how would THF potentially play a part?
So I believe so, and I hope so. So I believe that we'll have a wonderful Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games, and after 6 months we'll have the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. I believe, they have most experienced cities. I think they will perform wonderfully. And as a THF activities, so we like to support more. But because of the pandemic situation, I think economies really went down. So we need more donors, to support the refugee children's. And also, I hope maybe this coming Tokyo Olympic Games, one of the refugee athletes can participate as a Taekwondo athletes in Olympic Games.
Absolutely, it would be wonderful to see that happen. And it was a wonderful experience in Rio to see the first refugee team. And I know that there's some refugee athletes training here in Lausanne with the lead of that. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity and a great opportunity to see athletes involved.
Thank you.
So I want to say thank you very much. If there's any other questions, pop them in the chat. But I want to say thank you to all of our guests, and in particular you, Dr. Choue, for joining us this evening from Korea, and for everybody joining online. It's been an absolute pleasure and a really great insight into the work that you're doing, and I look forward to continuing to see what happens with the work that you continue to do.
So hopefully we'll see each other in Lausanne in beginning of November.
I hope so. I hope so. All the very best. And as you said, stay safe, everybody online who's been able to join us wherever you are around the world. Thank you very much. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Have a good day. Have a good day.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Sure.